Hey one, hey all, welcome to Monday, and that means it's countdown day, and today we're going to be looking at the top 10 Transformers blasters. I don't mean the character of blasters, I mean the blasters that they use when they roll into combat. That's going to be our topic this time around in the latest GotBot Counts Down. Hey one, hey all, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, please like, comment, share, of course, subscribe, and while you're at it, light 'em up, baby! And hit that notification bell, please. It helps me out a ton. It lets you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, all the groups that I'm either a mod or an admin for, as well as all of my social media links. All that in the description down below. Also in the description down below. And if you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. You can check us out on Patreon. You can see what we offer to you through Spring. Or, of course, you can hit the join button right here on YouTube, man, and become a channel member. And like I said, as voted on by fans all across social media, this is going to be the top 10 blasters. Now, some of these I think are a little bit iffy. I think that they got it because of popular vote, because I do feel like when we get to the end of all this, and I tell you what some of the other votes were, I feel like some of them really, really deserve to be on here, but they just didn't get the love from the fans in the voting. We only have one honorable mention that I'm going to mention right now. The first, I guess, caveat that I want to give is that there were a few votes for G1 Blaster, a couple for Titan's Return Blaster. Didn't mean the character. That's why I didn't really count those. I didn't mean the character of Blaster. I meant the blasters that they use, right? And so there were a few there. I did want to give a nod to it. I did want to mention it. People did, go through the effort to vote. It was a little bit of a misunderstanding of the question, but I understand why there was a misunderstanding, if that makes sense. The actual honorable mention would have to go to the movie Optimus Prime and his big barrage cannons, man. Yeah, I get it. As well, we could probably sort of throw in, it's not really an honorable mention, but it did get a vote or two, and I'm going to throw it in there, the cannons that movie Ironhide had, that he wanted to show off to Sam. That got a couple of votes. So those couple of movie, forms of armament did get a couple of votes. They did not make the list, so who did? You know what we're going to do. We're going to kick things off with number 10 first. Number 10 takes us to Beast Wars and the rapid fire and awesome Rhinox gatling guns. Yeah, his gatling guns are great, honestly. Now, this is the Thrilling 30s version that don't have the best paint, but they are kind of deep, and then you got the Kingdom ones that got more paint, but they're kind of like pea shooters. The Gatling guns I thought were cool, the way that they were animated, the way that they were on screen. Like, yeah, when he went into battle, I know that Rhinox wasn't the biggest guy for battle in terms of, having a thirst for it, but man, when he did, he was armed up pretty well. Enough fans felt the same way that this dude was able to take the number 10 slot. Number 9 is Megatron and his alt mode. This is actually a very small version. This is the Dr. Wu version of Megatron in his alt mode. It can be wielded by really any of the mainline guys that have 5mm hands, though I do find you can't really put the stock on. That's a little unfortunate. But how can you argue with this? And when people voted for this, they said the scene in the 86 movie when they board the Autobot ship and it's the end of the line for Prowl and for Ratchet and for Brawn, and it's all because of Megatron. Can't argue with it, man. Enough fans felt that way and voted that way that this guy took, and this mode took, the number 9 slot. Number 8 takes us to G1 once again, and this, in case you don't know, is Jetfire's dual barrel blaster. I love this thing. Now, this is actually the version that came with the Shattered Glass Jetfire. It was just easier for me to get my hands on this one. But whether you take them apart and have them be two blasters that he can dual wield, or put them together as a dual cannon blaster, either way, this is a formidable piece of armament, right? Either he has 2 targets that he can fire at with 2 big cannons, or 1 big target that he fires at with 1 big cannon. Fans felt that this was a powerful enough, memorable enough blaster that it was able to take the number 8 slot. Number 7 takes us to the land of Titans and Omega Supreme's arms, specifically the Omega Beam, but really some votes came in for either of his arms because the claw arm can open and be a blaster, the other arm is a blaster. Like, yeah, I get it. Even if you want to go to animated, I mean, again, blasters, like, I get it. Powerful, big, formidable part of his body. How can you not include these in the best Transformers blasters? Fans felt that way, that this guy was able to take, enough fans I should say felt this way, that this guy was able to take the number 7 slot. Number 6 is very classic, and it's this. This is a null ray. In fact, it's actually this guy's null ray. It's Starscream's null ray. You know, the shoulder blasters that for years we didn't know were necessarily called null rays. Although, if you were, you know, a keen observer when you were a kid watching G1, they did call them null rays. I was an adult before I actually paid any attention to it. Nevertheless, the arm blasters, the arm cannons, the null rays that are on the arms of the Seekers, Starscream, Thundercracker, and Skywarp, absolutely iconic. How can you argue with it? They are considered some of the most formidable forms of armament in all of Transformers. I mean, if the Seekers use them, they gotta count for something, right? And on this list, with the votes, they counted for the number 6 slot. And here we are once again at the most coveted of locations, the halfway mark. And at the halfway mark, I actually don't have anything in my hands to show for this, even though I did review a version of it some time ago. I'll probably put a card on the video here to kind of help you guys out if you do want to take a look at it. But it is the ultra powerful blaster linked ominously to the original 13. It is none other than the Requiem blaster. Blaster's in the name. We all know the destructive power of the Requiem blaster. The version that I reviewed, of course, was the Armada Requiem blaster, which of course were 3 little mini-cons that formed the Requiem blaster. Doesn't really look like the Requiem blaster the way I know it, but I respect what it's supposed to represent. Some people cited the Titans Return version of the Requiem blaster that Megatron used. Of course, it is Megatron's like signature, right? He is paired with the Requiem blaster, just like Solus is paired with the Forge, just like Optimus is paired with the Matrix, just like Primus paired with his sword, right? So, you know, I get it. I absolutely get it. It was the first major blaster, was still considered one of the most powerful major blasters and a major threat. How can you argue with the Requiem blaster? Voters couldn't, and that's why that particular blaster took the number 5 slot. Now, number 4 is quirky because the way the voting was worded for this one was a little bit weird, so I kind of lumped them all together because what a lot of people voted for was Shockwave Hand Blaster. I don't know if they mean the blaster that forms from one of Shockwave's hands, or if they mean when he transforms into a blaster and, for example, is wielded by Bruticus or by himself. So it's either this one, or both. Either way you cut it, I think we all know that Shockwave is pretty formidable, and if we're talking G1, it could be either version. If we're talking, for example, Transformers Prime, it would definitely be the cannon that's his arm. If we're talking the movies, it would definitely be the cannon that's his arm. Yeah, Shockwave. Either version that you want to interpret the blaster to be fits, makes sense, and it came in because of the votes at the number 4 slot. Now, I don't think that the top 3 will be a surprise to anybody. Maybe the order, but coming in at number 3 is one of my absolute favorites, and it's this guy. It is Megatron and his particle cannon. We all know the power of the particle cannon. I mean, it destroyed the planet of Thrull. Like, it destroyed a planet. It also was the thing that ended Starscream's existence in physical form. We all know that he got blasted. Here's a hint, right, in the movie, and Starscream turned gray and then he turned to dust. How can you argue with how memorable this is, with how formidable it is? There was even a vote for, like, the G1 version of this when he actually turns into, like, a blaster that can be held. Yeah, Galvatron's particle cannon. I get it. Whatever kind of justification you want to give for this, it all makes sense, and it took the number 3 slot. Coming in at number 2 is one of the biggest, the baddest, and the best known, most iconic blasters in all of Transformers. It gotta be Optimus Prime's Ion Blaster. This, of course, is a resin cast of the version that came with the Centurion pack. It is gigantic, arguably too big for him, but I don't care. It's almost comedically, ridiculously oversized, but it looks like the cannon. I'm cool with Optimus having a huge cannon like this. To be fair, some of the versions of this that were voted for are versions that can convert. For example, like MP10's version got a vote because it can fold up and store away, and that is a beautiful version of the Ion Blaster. Though I think the voter said, I'm not going to call it the Ion Blaster, it's his laser blaster. I get it, you know, the G1 in us, right? And there were another couple that like folded up that, yeah, makes sense. That's a nice feature to be able to add to the iconic and traditional Ion Blaster. Can't argue with it. Optimus Prime, when you see him roll into battle with this, when you see him break it out in the 86 movie, how can you not have all the feels as a fan? I know I certainly did, and I know enough voters did, that this guy was able to solidify himself quite easily at the number 2 slot. And coming in at number 1 is my personal favorite, is where my vote would have been if I voted on these lists. I don't, because that wouldn't really be fair, right? This one makes total sense to me. It is probably even more iconic than Optimus Prime's Ion Blaster. It is probably the single most iconic blaster in all of Transformers, and when a version of this character comes along without it, everybody almost unanimously says, yeah, it's good, but there's something not right here. Of course, I'm talking about none other than Megatron's fusion cannon. That gigantic cannon on his arm. This is the Toy World's Hegemon, and I love the look of the fusion cannon on this guy. The Siege one has it, the Earthrise one has it. You know, the MP, come on, good night nurse. I mean, honestly, like, yeah, the fusion cannon. It was almost destined. It was almost kismet that this was going to take number 1. It makes perfect sense to me, as it did for many voters. And here we are once again. We have gone from 10 down to 1, but there were a lot of other great votes on this list. For example, the V-Lock cannon had a couple of votes. G2 Meg's over-the-shoulder cannon had a couple of votes. RID Ultra Magnus's like twin blasters or twin cannons had votes. Superion's rifle, Titan's Return. Or Titan Returns, I don't remember what that was called now. The TR, Octone's Blaster, Beast Wars Ravage's 2 like laser pistol-y things, AoE Lockdown's Gunface. I mean, come on, man. How can you argue that? Soundwave's Concussion Blaster. What else was here? The double barrel cannon on Onslaught's truck mode was in there as well. What else? G1 Predaking's Blaster, Spoil Sport, Blowpipe, Nightstick, they all had votes. Sentinel Prime's like Cosmic Rust Blaster, Blaster's Ring Gun, the gun with the ring in it, Cog, 6-gun, 6-shot, and just for extra, Quick Switch. All of those and more had votes. What a great list. Maybe we'll do something with Melee. I'm not a Melee guy, but you never know. There might be something in there, right? Anyway, let me know where your favorites fell or if they appeared on the list. I appreciate you guys coming by, giving me some of your extremely valuable time. I do know how important it is to you. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. You can check us out on Patreon. You can see what we offer to you through Teespring. Or, of course, you can hit the join button right here on YouTube and become a channel member. Also, hit the subscribe button. Stick around. Have some fun with us here on the channel. Don't forget, man, that somehow, some way, each and every single solitary day, you right there, you do make a difference. And I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit, either in the live streams on Thursday nights, at the stop motion premieres, or the old-fashioned way, baby, right here inside the videos.